Well, welcome everybody. So glad to see you guys tonight. It got really cold here. I don't know if it took a turn for everybody already, but I'm glad it won't last long. My name is Amy Manning. If you're new to the group, I run the Iowa Teacher Dyslexia Support Group, and we are so thrilled to have Nancy Young here tonight to explain her ladder of reading, which is super famous, and I use it in all
And
my
writing,
presentations.
and writing.
And
Don't forget the
writing, I
handwriting.
forgot that part. I know. Thank you. And for her to introduce her new book, I haven't had a chance to really dig in deep yet, but it's different than any other book that I own. And so I'm so grateful for it because it has so many different topics that we all need as teachers. Just to let you know, I am going to send a free copy to some winner tonight. So if you would like to be in the running for that, put your name and either email me in the chat or private message me if you want. So I know, even if I have your email, it's just helpful for me to go through the list and collect all of that. And I'll get one lucky winner sent out a book. And I'll probably send it through the Benchmark, the publisher, unless Amazon suddenly starts to get more in. But I didn't check today, but I know that they have been out of stock. So what a great thing for you, Nancy. It's amazing.
Yes, yes. It's very exciting. Yeah,
Yeah.
they will have more soon in Amazon. It's just Amazon is a little more complicated because of shipping and they
Yeah.
have all these different requirements. Evidently, I didn't even know, has
Oh,
to arrive on a certain day and it has to be a certain number and
oh.
just um if you're booked for a number, then you have to deliver that number. You can't send if you have some stock available, it can't be drips and drabs. And so, yeah, it's just been, I guess, a real experience and Amazon's changed over time. So, that must be their latest. They do control a lot of the market. So we
Of
can't really.
yeah,
But
but
anyhow,
teachers,
but the publisher definitely, and the publisher has free shipping now for anybody who's wondering. So yeah, I think you just said that, Amy.
yes, I'll share that in the chat too, and I know that you'll post it as well. It's a QR code to get to that code for the free shipping, right, Nancy?
Yes, yes, and you
Okay.
have to sign up for an account first. So ignore the thing that says guest checkout disabled. Uh, um, all that means is you have to sign up for an account before you can actually input the discount code. So
Okay.
write the discount code down and then sign up for the account. And then as you're doing that, put the discount code in.
Okay.
Um,
Great.
yeah, I've been helping them kind of try to figure out how it looks for Canadians and so on. So they're still doing a little bit of troubleshooting because before Canadians couldn't purchase from the publisher. Um, so that's a new change. So they're just kind of getting their system set. So yeah.
Okay.
So thank you,
Well,
Sam. Yeah,
yeah.
hold up the book again because everybody should know I don't have a copy yet. I
What?
saw it at Plain Talk, and so I got to hold it, and I was very excited. But this is I just I printed out the cover. I have the PDF. Needless to say, the PDF is on my brain forever. But I thought, I'm going to hold this up and present it. This is my book right now. But there were so many people who pre-ordered that the publisher wanted to honor their pre-order, which I totally agreed with because I know what's in the book. But it's kind of funny. So yes, I did hold it at Plain Talk, and then I put it down again, and somebody bought it.
That is hilarious. Oh my gosh.
It is exciting, but it's interesting what you said. It's like no other book. It is a unique book about a unique infographic, and I'll share that with you tonight. Do you want
Yeah.
me to share my slides or?
Take it
Okay,
over. Yeah.
before I start, I think I told Amy that I can do a short bio. I do have a bio on my new website. If you've gone to my website before, it now looks different because I took the plunge and had a new one designed so that we could get more information up about the book. The old one, I was in private practice for 20 years, and so the old one evolved, just like the science is evolving, my website evolved. and it was time for an update. But I'm an educational consultant, and in case you don't know, I live in Canada, and I'm in British Columbia on the West Coast. I'm actually on Vancouver Island, which is west of Vancouver. So I'm across the water from the city of Vancouver. It takes about an hour and a quarter, just over an hour on a big ferry, I say. I'm an educator, but I'm also a parent. And my children were actually advanced readers. And so sometimes people say, how did you think of the ladder of reading and writing infographic? But everybody had to be there because at the time I created, I was working with children with dyslexia. But I also knew my children were reading before school. So it's been a very, very interesting journey for me. And I just finished my Doctor of Education degree in June. So I've been studying, and my focus was actually on gifted and twice exceptional students. So that was fun. And what else? I'm the creator of the Ladder of Reading and Writing infographic, and then co-edited this new book with Jan. And I did write a book on movement, which came out in 2016, but I'm just revising that right now. But that is another real passion of mine. And Amy, you mentioned ADHD at the beginning, and I'm really interested. I'm interested in everything, but with kids with ADHD, the research really indicates they need to move and they learn better with moving. And so I'm hoping to kind of circle back to that at some point. But yeah, I can share the screen. Okay, so this should be, hopefully this is the right one because I saw two PowerPoint things up there. All right, so this is the new book, and I don't know. I don't know where your pictures are, but I hope you're just move around your picture as you need to. So why did Jan and I co-author or co-edit this book? Well, we've seen a lot of turmoil in the field, and this art represents not just educators but parents, supporting professionals, librarians, educational assistants or learning assistants, and that's where I started in special ed many years ago as an assistant to a teacher. But also this art represents people who are affecting legislation, administrators, superintendents. There are a lot of people right now, the reading is in the spotlight. And so Jan and I wanted to help clarify that at the same time as bring information about the infographic to people. So there were a lot of confusions. Literally, that's being there are a lot of factions out there. And Amy and I were just talking about all the negativity out there. And one of the things Jan and I wanted to do was to bring a book that had a positive outlook, positive language, move forward and stop the worrying. So the book we felt was, it really stemmed from the infographic, but we also knew it was needed because there was so much confusion in the field. And the book is really designed to support all learners, and it's grounded in the science. And we're hoping it'll help teachers, parents. It's written for a very, very broad audience. And it's written, we tried to make it in an approachable, easy to read manner, but at the same time, it is grounded in the science. But the goal is for our students to be reading and writing and to be happy on the journey. That's why we do what we do, and that's what parents want. Excuse me, for the children. And you'll have to forgive. I've been dealing with the bronchial issue, so yeah, I've got lozenges and ginger ale and water, and I've got everything here, and I hope I can keep talking. So yes, the foreword of the book was written by Marianne Wolf, and I met Marianne in 2009. Some of you may know she authored the program Ravo. And when I read Proust and the Squid and I learned about Ravo, I decided I needed to learn about this program because it sounded like so much fun, and I'm all about the fun. I love to have fun with students while we're learning. And so I flew myself to Boston, and then before I went, I emailed Marianne and said I would love to meet you, and we've been friends ever since. And it was actually Marianne who encouraged me to use the word dyslexia, because in Canada, the word dyslexia was not used at all at that point. It's starting to become a little more common, but even probably 5 years ago, I was doing professional development for a large district in Canada, and I was told not to use the word dyslexia so much. Some people just don't like the word, but Marianne said use it because most of the research uses the word dyslexia, and then using dyslexia opens the door to all sorts of groups like the International Dyslexia Association. So that really helped move along my learning. I had just used the term learning disability before. So this is the infographic that I created, and this is a 2023 edition. So if you're using an older one, be sure to go to my website and look at the newer one. And if you do want to use it in a presentation or whatever, my permission guidelines are all there. And it says exactly what you need to get permission for and what you can use it for that you don't need permission for. So in 2021, I did add the words and writing, and then in 2023, in conjunction with the book, I decided I wanted a few more changes to wording. But the latter, sometimes we just call it the latter. That's kind of the shortened term that a lot of people use. And if you make it longer, you need to have that word writing in there, the ladder of reading and writing. And this is the ladder. And when Dean Stanton from Calgary, Alberta, Canada, did the art for this, my requirement was that the children were all smiling. I really, really, I really want people to know the messages that the journey should be joyful. And joyful could mean being successful in gaining skills, but joyful is also enjoying the journey. And we're dealing with children and youth. And I know youth in the States, I think, includes children, because in my doctoral studies, I'd see articles that talked about youth, and they would be young kids. In Canada, youth tends to be teenagers. So whether they're younger children or teenagers, we want them to enjoy the journey. And the middle of the infographic is the continuum of ease in rewiring the brain to become the reading brain. And the colors here are actually representing what is called in the research the continuous distribution of ease and learning to read. So for some children in the red area, rewiring the brain is difficult, and our children with dyslexia are in that area. They have to work hard at rewiring the brain. For children in the orange, it's not as difficult, but they still need certain instruction. For children in the light green, it's easier. They're going to learn much more implicitly. They won't need as much instruction. And for children in the dark green, those children are arriving at school already reading, or in some cases, they really, really leap up the ladder quickly. Those children you've seen who just master skills so quickly and easily. So the continuum is in the middle, and the continuum has words that reflect the instructional implications. And in the yellow box is are the words, and then I boxed the words on the right-hand side that encompass what children in the red and the orange need, which is a comprehensive analytical approach to learning language structure. And that is likely essential. Note the word likely. The more the more I learn, the more I'm cautious about how I say things. There's never 100% certainty. No research is 100% certain. So, so I framed this all through the infographic, likely, may, those are words because we just need to be careful about being black and white because there never will be 100% certainty. So I thought I would put in a slide about comprehensive analytical so you can see how it fits with what some people call structured literacy. And structured literacy it would be part of like one of the approaches under a comprehensive approach, comprehensive analytical approach. The 5 pillars would also be under there. And some people use structured literacy, some people use 5 pillars. Some people think structured literacy is a specific program. Some people think structured literacy is just phonics. And so I actually was seeing the word comprehensive in the literature, and I'm noticing more and more people are saying comprehensive. Comprehensive means you're going to have more than one thing. It cannot be just phonics if it's comprehensive, but comprehensive also brings in background knowledge, and it brings in language difficulties if they're challenged, and it's needs based. So you have your components, your phonics, morphology, semantics, syntax as part of a comprehensive approach. But some children need more of some things than others. And then analytic is really analyzing the structure of language. And I love the way that Hoover and Tunmer talk about the importance of thinking about what they're learning. And for me, this was really important to put into the process because I sometimes worry that the drill is not the drill that some children are getting is not encouraging enough thinking about what's going on. And I love a really analytical approach, and I really did that in my own teaching, really looking at the structure of language, the structure of individual words, the structure of sentences, the structure of essays. And really looking at having children engaged and then applying that. And that actually applies to something like, if you've heard of Scher's self-teaching, when children learn to analyze patterns, then they can analyze patterns as they go forward. Some children learn that more implicitly. Some children need to get a lot of explicit instruction to be able to analyze patterns. So the word explicit you see 3 times here because the more difficult it is to learn to read, the more explicit instruction is necessary. But for children who for whom the process of rewiring the brain is not as difficult, they can learn with more implicit learning opportunities. And so right now, again, there's a lot of swinging happening. And people like Mark Seidenberger speaking out saying, wait a sec now, why are these children getting all that instruction? Actually, they're going to learn more through implicit learning. And Steve Dykstra wrote an article about this a few years ago. Implicit learning, the learning that's going to happen without children realizing it's happening, is actually a big part of learning to read and write. And we just can't teach everything. And so I'm seeing people post things saying, skilled readers read well because they have been explicitly taught everything. And that's actually not accurate. We know that children with dyslexia do take longer and require explicit instruction that is broken up into more steps, but not everybody needs that. And so the infographic is really clearly showing that the type of explicit instruction and the amount of explicit instruction is going to vary based on need. And we need to, and again, Seidenberg says this, what we want is explicit instruction that can jumpstart implicit learning. you're setting the children up so when they are exposed to text, their brain is going to start to be able to identify and read that text. It's short, but we can discuss it later. It's hard in a short presentation to get into that, but some of you will have heard this. So the purple arrow, the first word here is differentiation, and this is a huge part of my infographic. And I added this purple arrow in 2021. I just tweaked the wording a little bit in 2023, but there is a lot of swinging to whole class instruction right now, and I'm really concerned because, and I'm not the only one concerned, because if you look at this continuum, if you look at the colors and what's here, how could we be teaching everybody the same way? We just can't. You know, if you are teaching everybody the same way, then somebody is being delayed. And our children with dyslexia are actually being delayed in some of this whole class instruction because they need more. And Sharon Vaughn has spoken out about this, the research saying children with dyslexia need small group instruction. And I'm also speaking out saying children in the dark green who are more advanced need small group instruction to be able to move forward. So when you look at the differentiation, it applies to everybody in the continuum. And the word systematic used to be in the dark red, and I took it out because every child actually deserves and needs systematically designed instruction. If you look at the research on advanced readers in gifted research, your good programs are systematically designed. They just have different content and different methods. But just because somebody's reading doesn't mean they don't deserve a program that is designed for their need. So systematically designed is there, and then data informed. And data informed includes observation. Right now, there's a huge focus on data and numbers, and everybody's measuring, and every child is getting measured on everything, it seems. And we just don't need to be doing that. And if our children are already reading, if you have a child in kindergarten who's holding a book and you taught them about that book and they can comprehend it and read it to you, we don't need to measure their phonemic awareness. And in fact, the measurements for phonemic awareness may actually be inaccurate. And Mark Seidenberg talks about how some children have moved on, and everything I have found in digging into the research really suggests that we, in measuring the phonemic awareness of children who already read, we're not, the measurement is not accurate, because phonemic awareness is a foundational skill, and maybe they were reading early at 3 years old and they've gone past that. But for children with dyslexia, that phonemic awareness in measurement is going to be very important. Now, not all children with dyslexia have difficulty with phonemic awareness, but because a significant number do, we want to be measuring that phonemic awareness. So again, the assessment is all kind of, you need to fit it into the continuum. Then the blue arrow, environmental factors here. Environmental includes the home, but it also includes the school, the teacher. It includes the environment, you know, the community the child lives in, and includes language, the child's home language. And then within student factors, that's where dyslexia is, because a child with dyslexia could also be impacted by a number of environmental factors. So within student factors would be ADHD, dyslexia, giftedness, psychological issues like anxiety, all of those there. So the blue arrow is also very important because the continuum is relates to the ease of learning to read, and then the blue arrow contains things that are going to potentially impact that ease of learning to read. So perhaps a child is their home language is different from the language of instruction. So that's the infographic. And what I'm going to do now I realized, Amy, I have, oh, there's my phone. I have a little bit of an idea as to time. I'm just going to walk you through now, the chapters in the book. And, for some of them, I'll stop in just a little bit, and then, you'll get a sense as to what the book contains. So again, here's Dean's art, part one. Excuse me. And Laura Stewart, some of you may know of Laura or know Laura herself. She wrote the first chapter, which is the message. And for some of you, if you're recommending the book, or if you're new to this yourself, you might really want to start there. She sets the stage, and she also beautifully pulls my infographic into the message of the whole book, the need for appropriate instruction for every child. Chapter 2 is a closer look. So what I do in chapter 2 is I dig into what I just presented, the terminology on the infographic, the features on the infographic, and I explain all of those. And then I also give citations for those. So the book is easy to read, but it does contain the citations. And then at the very end are the lists of all the articles, because we really wanted to make it approachable, but at the same time, make it clear this is grounded in the science. Number 3, I co-authored with Margie Gillis. And again, a name some of you may have heard. And Margie was the lead author, and it was a lot of fun to work on this together. What we've done is we've covered the whole continuum in this chapter. There are many books right now that are being written that are only focused on children in the red and maybe the orange. And if you look at some of the books, they are called intervention, but they're not being treated like intervention books. They're being treated as everybody needs all this. So Margie and I made it really clear. We looked at the different colors of the continuum. We defined key terminology. We defined the components. And this is one of the images from the page where we've gone into just defining the different components that are actually part of Margie's wheel, the reading wheel that is in the book as well. And some of you will know that some students need a lot of work with certain components, and some, for example, you could have a child who has very advanced vocabulary who has dyslexia. And as much as we want to continue to work on vocabulary, they don't need the vocabulary intervention that a child with language difficulties will need. So the chapter is really kind of introducing this idea that we have a number of components, but all of it is, what do the children need? What do the children need? And just to show you as well, this chapter also has vignettes. We actually took the different colors and we created examples for those to help educators and parents understand what it looks like, the different types of instruction based on where a child is in the continuum. So this is Jan's chapter on data, and I call Jan the queen of data because she has done so much in this, and her ORF research is used around the world. And Jan just gives an overview. So again, some of you will be very familiar with data. For some of you, you might not know much at all. And Jan talks about different types of data gathering measures, and her message is really, this isn't just about collecting data, it's about using the data to inform instruction. And again, so one thing I'm seeing happening is a huge focus on data, and then all the children are getting the same instruction. So you think, well, how accurate is the data measurement after all that whole class instruction? If the data showed that everybody was the same, then give them the same instruction. But if the data shows differences, then getting the same instruction is actually problematic. So I'm going to admit somebody. I just admitted somebody. So chapter 5 is a chapter written by Vicki Gibson. Vicki Gibson has been um, has developed a few schools that provide differentiated instruction. She's been writing about differentiated instruction and giving professional development about differentiated instruction for a number of decades. And Vicki has really good systems for management, because the key to differentiation is managing. And if you want to write down, I want to make sure I just talk about that a little more at the end. The different ways, but these are two images from Vicki's chapter, and you can see how she addresses the issue of managing time, managing the environment, managing behaviors, and then managing instruction. Look at these steps: organize the classroom, establish routines, develop tools, manage flexible grouping, provide instruction. So the focus of Vicki's chapter is really, we need to set up our learning environments so that differentiated instruction can happen. And right now, there are people who think that we can't differentiate because they say it doesn't work, but the key to making it work is organizing. So this chapter has a lot of information about the organization. So then part two is all about addressing exceptional needs. And so you can see here all the different types of exceptionalities we have here. And I'll just go through them quickly. So Jan, some of you may know about her book, Conquering Dyslexia, and she wrote the chapter on dyslexia, giving the overview as to what it is and what type of instruction they need. Nathan Clements and Catherine O'Donnell wrote the chapter on specific reading comprehension disability. I'm sorry about that. I usually unplug the phone when it's probably Visa security. Those stupid spam calls. I don't know if you get a lot of those in the States, but we sure get a lot. So anyhow, sorry about that. It'll go away. So this chapter talks about that the fact that a child could have comprehension difficulties and have trouble decoding, or they could have comprehension difficulties and not have trouble decoding. So lots of information here. And one of the things that they bring up is that these researchers are seeing that children just aren't being given enough time to read in schools. And I think there's such a focus on explicit instruction that that children aren't just having the time to read. And this is very concerning. And it applies to every single exceptionality in this part 2 of the book. Written expression difficulties. Jan and I wrote this chapter, and it's got a number of recommendations. We know that some children do not have difficulty learning to read, but they have difficulty with writing. And so there are a number of different suggestions in here, and we recommend sentence combining, and we recommend self-regulated strategy development. They're both in here, both highly, highly supported by the research. So that is there. I'm going through quickly because I know we don't have a lot of time. DLD, developmental language disorder. Tiffany Hogan and Maura Curran wrote this one, and they have really valuable information about language difficulties. And then Carolyn Denton, who's actually a really good friend of Jan's, who actually was one of Jan's students when Jan was teaching at Texas A&M. She wrote the chapter on ADHD, and she has done research herself on ADHD, and she has some valuable tips in there. If you have students who have ADHD and are having difficulties learning to read, we know that there's an overlap between dyslexia and ADHD. We also know that you could be an advanced reader and have ADHD. So it's ADHD is very interesting, and I'm trying to kind of put it on the map more. This is a chapter that you won't see in a lot of books, intellectual disability. And the research is actually quite recent in terms of the science. until recently, it was really thought that children with intellectual disability had limited ability to learn to read, and most of them with not a severe intellectual disability were taught whole word memorization. And actually, the research. Oh, just a sec. Oh, I realized I planned on a page and I left it out. But I'll just tell you that children with intellectual disability can learn to read at a higher level than people have been expecting. And what does it take? Explicit instruction and time and just a program set up to meet their needs. So it's if you look at the components of a comprehensive approach, the phonics, the semantics, syntax, morphology, that we're breaking that down in a major way for children with intellectual disability. But there's really exciting research showing that these children can learn more than people have expected. So that was really exciting for me to put in the book, because when I started out as an educational assistant many years ago, there was no reading instruction for these kids. And in all my work with kids with intellectual disability back then, there just was no expectation. So it is really exciting to think that we can move them along to a more advanced they're not, they may not be able to read, of course, like a typical person, but they can learn more than previously has been expected. And then a chapter that is also very exciting to include in this book is a chapter written by Erica Jones of the Atlanta Speech School on deaf and hard of hearing. And this is full of information how to support children who are deaf and hard of hearing. And some of those children may have dyslexia. Some of those children may be gifted. So it's another chapter that has a crossover. And Erica talks about language nutrition, and she talks about the importance of the technology that teachers need to wear in order for children who are deaf and hard of hearing to be able to hear language. So it's a fun chapter. This is my chapter on children who are advanced in reading. I spent many years advocating for the needs of children with dyslexia and trying to undo the guessing that was being taught in school and make teachers aware of code-based instruction and the phonics, the semantics, syntax, and morphology. And but over the years, and especially the last few years, there's been such a huge shift that my focus right now is very much on children who are advanced, because the goal was never for one group of children to be left out and not get what they need. The ladder of reading and writing has always had all the groups in it. And I've realized teachers need more support in knowing how to support the children in the light green and the dark green. And actually, just so you know, when people talk about the science of reading and the large body of research, there are also big gaps in the research. And one of the area that's in my session on advanced reading, I have two people quoted talking about the neglect of children who learn to read early. So really, the book and all the issues that children have to deal with that we want to address is about all children. And you can also see here Dean's Art of a Child in a Wheelchair, because I said, the art sends messages, and it was really important. This was very intentional. A child in a wheelchair who may be an advanced reader. So, and then the part 3 of the book is on other considerations that we felt were important to include. So we have a chapter on oldest students, and it was written by Sharon Vaughn, Elizabeth Stevens, and Christy Austin. Christy was the lead author. So you can see the caliber of expertise that we have in this book. It was just so exciting. We have variations of English, which goes into dialect, and Kimiana Burke and Casey Sullivan Taylor wrote this one, because Understanding dialectical implications is really important. That's part of that environmental part of the Blue Arrow. Multilingual learners, Cami McBride is one of the world's experts on multilingual learners, and she brought in 3 other co-authors to work with her on this chapter. And right now there's a lot of focus on multilingual in the States on Spanish. But they bring in information about children who have Chinese background, and for them to learn English in some of the complications. So it's not just one language that they're addressing in this chapter. And the other thing about the multilingual learner is they could be anywhere on the ladder of reading and writing continuum. They could learn to read really easily. They could come in and not know the language and learn to read super quickly. And so we don't want to block them. And, sometimes I worry that there's this, multilingual, they're going to need so much explicit instruction. Well, maybe they won't. And they might be advanced readers in their own language. So you can see how the book is really about everybody on the continuum. You may be familiar with Steve Dykstra. He wrote the chapter on socioeconomic factors and focusing on children who are coming from poverty. And again, children coming from poverty, we know there are risk factors, but we don't want to box them in. They could be in the dark green too. But we know the research is really clear from gifted ed and from the reading science research that our children coming from poverty are likely to need more support wherever they are on the ladder of reading and writing. And I've certainly I actually wrote a paper on this in my doctoral studies on the need to move these kids along but scaffold and support them. And there's some great research that's being done by people in gifted ed about supporting children from poverty who are gifted. And then Amy Fleischer and Judy Bedell did the chapter on the connection between school and home, and they are teachers who are also mothers. And this chapter includes information for both parents and and caregivers and for educators on ways to build the connection. There's so much research on the importance of involvement of parents and caregivers in the education of their child, but it's siloed. A lot of people aren't aware of this research. So this is a great chapter. Technology, Kathleen Puckett wrote a chapter on ways to use technology. And again, for our children with dyslexia, you will know many of them are using assistive technology, and she makes it really clear this is not about replacing learning, this is about enhancing learning. And for our children who are older and having difficulties or younger and twice exceptional, gifted in dyslexia, technology can be really valuable for enabling them to move forward and get that intellectual engagement. And then the last chapter is teacher development. Tiffany Peltier and Erin Washburn wrote this, and it's got great information on frameworks for teachers that they've applied to reading and writing. And if you know Tiffany and Erin, you will know that they have written on what's called refutation text, which is kind of undoing the myths. So undoing the myths of dyslexia, and they show examples of that in their chapter. Many people think, but actually, what they think is based on a myth. And how do we undo those myths in a respectful, kind way so we can move forward? And then the book has a QR code in it, and through the QR code, book owners can access additional materials. And Jan and I wrote a series of what we call blog posts. And there is an article in there, a blog in there on children who are twice exceptional, gifted in dyslexia. There's a blog on finding our children's strengths. And there were just things that we wanted to write about that were very fleeting in the book that we thought deserved a little more attention. And this is Jan and I. This summer, she came to visit me in British Columbia, and we dragged out this ladder and had my husband take all these pictures to be able to put a picture in the book. The publishers asked if we could get a picture, and we thought, we're going to have some fun. So we did. I just about killed my knee because I fell off a couple of times, but it was a lot of fun. But this is the way we wrap up the book, basically saying whatever your role, we hope that the book will give you knowledge fundamentals, implementation guidance, but also enthusiasm to collaboratively shape a learning environment, and a learning environment in which all students are mastering the skills of reading and writing successfully and joyfully. And joyfully means they're getting what they need and moving up that ladder as quickly as we can move them. And this is the artist who did the art in the book. He's from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And I love his art, Dean Stanton. And just a shout out to the people at Benchmark, who there were so many people there, but President Sarah Hoffman and the editors, Jennifer and Julie and Natasha, and the design team who pulled this together in a very unique way, and Geraldine Stevens, who's down now really involved with the marketing, and many other people. We really appreciate it because they designed what we wanted, which was a book that people would want to read. We didn't want dense textbooks. There are enough of those. We wanted something that people would sit down and read and smile at, but feel informed in reading. And just so you know, the book there right now, there's free delivery if you order from Benchmark. So if you right now there aren't any books at Amazon, they're still actually delivering the pre-orders. And but if you go to the publisher, you can order there. And just if you do order and you want the free delivery, you have to create an account before you input the discount code. And this I just posted about this on Facebook. So if you go to my Facebook page, you can see the process. And that's the overview, people. So, any questions about the book?